Welcome back to the I Am Passionate podcast. It's your host, Jaren Smith. I've got my logo behind me, and today is the Super Bowl. I've got to get my big brother back on the podcast. Cam, how you doing?
I'm feeling good today. Ready for a good game.
I could not agree more. I could not. So obviously last week, did not have an episode because there was no football last week. But technically there was. There was the Pro Bowl, but I gotta ask you, do you even care about the Pro Bowl?
No, no, I don't pay attention at all. I haven't for a handful of years at this point, honestly. I'm not sure if the Pro Bowl can ever be resurrected, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I think that it's just boring. Um, it like I probably could not even really be interested in it for, a longer period of time. Like if I tune in, I might watch, one series and then just be done. But yeah, me personally, I liked it. I think it was better when it was in Hawaii and like when like Hall of Famers or legends would like draft their teams. I thought that was a cool concept. I understand that, probably to the online opinion, it still was not the best, but it was way better than what's happening today.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl is like a hard topic to discuss because obviously a lot of NFL teams, a lot of NFL players don't want to put themselves at risk of being hurt. Um, which one of the reasons why they went to the flag football format. But it's kind of like they don't really get to showcase all their skill sets. And then on top of that, the competitiveness for the entire Pro Bowl has just been completely decimated and depleted. Um, it's kind of like the same thing with the All-Star game for the NBA. I think do you think that there will ever be a point in time where like they just discontinue the Pro Bowl? Like they vote for people like to the Pro Bowl, but they actually don't play a game?
Yes and no. Um, I'm gonna say yes because the Pro Bowl happened this past Tuesday. It was not even on a Sunday. But people still did tune in to watch it. So I think as long as they're making money, they're going to keep airing the Pro Bowl every year. They
Yeah.
would have to have like 5 straight years of like lowest viewership ever
Yeah.
for them to be like, yeah, let's just say, JSN, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Let's just say that they make the Pro Bowl, but we're not going to do anything else with it.
Yeah.
Um, the next question. I wanted to talk a little bit about, the NFL awards. I wanted to ask you, do you think every award was deserving? And if not, who would you have replaced? I think a lot of the awards were really tough. There was like a lot of right answers.
I was gonna say, I think there were a lot of close races this year. I mean, Depoy, obviously, Miles Garrett, take that. Um, you know me, I was a voter of Matthew Stafford for MVP, so I'm glad that he won the MVP trophy. Who won Player of the Year? Remind me.
Like
Offensive
offensive
player,
player of the year, defensive
yeah,
player of the year,
offensive player of the year.
JSN.
JSN, that's right. Yeah, that's a deserving award. I mean, I see how you could give it to other people, um, but there are a lot of tight races this year.
Me personally, I would say the only award I would have changed is the Coach of the Year, which Mike Vrabel got it, which I understand. The Patriots were 4-13 last year, and they're playing the Super Bowl later today. I don't want to take away any more credit from the Patriots I already have. But I think that either A, the Seahawks head coach, Mike McDonald, or Ben Johnson. I think either one of them should have gotten the award. But specifically, I would have given the nod to Ben Johnson over Seattle's head coach, which when you look at like all the breakdowns, there's no reason as to why Seattle's head coach did not deserve the award. But when I
Mhm.
look at Ben Johnson has done the same thing that Mike Vrabel is. I get it. The Bears aren't playing in the Super Bowl. But I think when you look at the Patriots roster versus the Bears roster, the Patriots do have the better roster. And
Mhm.
Mike Vrabel has been a head coach before. So the
Mhm.
Patriots were already kind of set up in a good situation. Ben Johnson being an unknown variable, he, exceeded expectations, like Will and beyond.
Yeah.
Um, so that, and then the only thing, I'm gonna keep this part short. I think the NFL needs to have a serious discussion about the MVP award. And I understand my bias is kicking in. This is 2 years ago where Lamar Jackson should have gotten the MVP award over Josh Allen. And I understand this take is very, very biased. People are going to say the year before when Lamar Jackson did win it, Dak Prescott had better stats. Dak Prescott was not playing against the same level of competition as Lamar Jackson was. Lamar Jackson had arguably the best season of his career by far, did not get it. And this year, Drake May, stats were very similar to Matt Stafford's. The difference being, Drake May was 14-3, while, Matt Stafford, they were 12-5. That was a very similar situation record-wise to the Ravens and Bills. I think they need to I think team success should not be as important of a variable when it comes to it, which I understand because Kevin had brought up the point that, defensive players aren't going to really get the award. Like Myles Garrett, could have definitely gotten the award, but he's on a team that was 5-12. I think team success should be important, but it should not be a detriment because all these athletes, they just ball out and just they don't get the award, which I think that's more so unfair. So my biggest argument is even if it was not Lamar Jackson, let's just say it was Patrick Mahomes in the race instead of, Lamar Jackson 2 years ago. I would have said Patrick Mahomes should have gotten the award over Josh Allen if that was the case.
Yeah, I think it's always tough to talk about because I think we try to look at it subjectively, and we always have to keep in mind that these are human voted. These are voted by humans. And there's a lot of bias that goes into it. There's a lot of just elements that you probably aren't even weighing yourself that go into who ends up getting these votes and why. I mean, I know this is not on the docket to talk about today, and we don't really have to get into it, but a perfect example is look at the Hall of Fame this year. Bill Belichick didn't get in. Robert Kraft didn't get in. And it's like, all right, well, we have 6 Super Bowl rings. So how how can you who has 6 Super Bowl rings and doesn't make the Hall of Fame first ballot? It's kind of insane. So it's like same thing with the MVP, where I think you're right. I think Lamar should have been unanimous MVP last year. Like his stats were just that ridiculous. They were that off the charts. I understand that he had a Derrick Henry to help him, who almost had 2K rushing yards last year. But despite the fact, as you said, those will probably, knock on wood, be the best stats Lamar ever puts up in his life. If you really go back and look at it, debatably, you could say that's one of the best statistical seasons ever by a quarterback ever. Um, so I don't see how Josh Allen ended up winning that over him last year. I think it's just voter fatigue, to be honest with you. And then going into this year, I do think that Matthew Stafford was clearly above Drake May in terms of uh, having won the award and being deserving of winning the award. I think it's a little bit further apart than the Lamar, or a lot of bit apart than the Lamar Josh Allen situation of last season. But I do see the point in Drake May winning it this year. But ultimately, got to keep in mind that these things have bias in them with these humans voting on these awards.
I want to talk about what you were talking about with, Bill Belichick, because I recently had a conversation with somebody. And essentially, I would say that if the Patriots did not have all of those cheating scandals, Bill Belichick would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I would also raise it to I don't think Bill Belichick was, this all amazing, all knowing head coach. I'm not saying he's a bad head coach. I think that if you took away Tom Brady much earlier in his career, we would not even be having this conversation. Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady is well below 500. I still think Bill Belichick deserves his respect. He deserves his flowers. I'm going to say that. But I think as a first ballot head coach, you have to change the game in a positive way. And I don't really think Bill Belichick did that. I think the one thing that I would say he consistently did throughout his career is that all of his Patriots teams were well coached. And that's not a bad thing to say. I think that, there are other coaches who have done more than Bill Belichick. Just Bill Belichick benefits from the Super Bowl rings argument, which I think that, yeah, no, you take away those cheating scandals, I think that, is an entirely different situation. And I had a conversation with somebody who, I used to play football with, and he was just mind blown. And I'm like, nah. And like one of the arguments that the person tried to make was Tom Brady had some bad Super Bowls. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I even looked up the stats. Outside of Tom Brady's very first Super Bowl, and the thing is, that first Super Bowl wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
Outside of that, every Super Bowl he played in, he did, he went, above and beyond. So that's just my take on the situation. I do agree with what you're saying. There is some bias in in the MVP voting, even in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
voting. There is some bias in it.
I think see my big argument against or for Belichick and Robert Kraft being first ballot Hall of Famers is I don't believe in double jeopardy. United States of America, double jeopardy is a thing. You are not, you will not be charged for the same crime twice. Bill Belichick was already punished for his Deflate Gate and other cheating scandals. He's already been punished for those. Why is he getting punished again? Because if that's the case, when Tom Brady is eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame, he better get the same treatment. And if there's anybody saying that a seven-time Super Bowl winner is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, you're insane. At the end of the day, it doesn't, I don't care what the narrative is behind when you win and while you're winning. The most important fact is who else has six Super Bowl rings, seven Super Bowl rings, and isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer? You don't see that. That doesn't happen. Pay the man his respect. He's already been punished for the scandals and the cheating scandals. Why is he getting double jeopardy? Why is he getting charged again for these same crimes? I don't think it should happen. I don't think it's fair.
I understand, and that's really well said. I think that's a great segue to talk about the Super Bowl, tonight's matchup, between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. We were going to get another Super Bowl rematch regardless, unless the Rams and Broncos had won, unless, the losers of the NFC, of the championship games had won their games. What are some of your thoughts, ahead of tonight's game?
I think a lot of people in the streets, I know we talked about this off camera, that it's just a very underwhelming matchup. It's a very underwhelming Super Bowl matchup. I do think that this is going to be a closer game. I know a lot of people are pulling it for, the Seahawks to necessarily be in control of this game. I don't think that that's going to happen, actually. I think it's going to be a well fought out game, to be honest with you.
I understand, and I'm kind of the opposite. I think the game is going to be close, but I think Seattle is gonna once they're in front, they're gonna, keep control of that lead, the entire time. I think that the keys to the game for the Patriots, number one, is gonna have to be making the game easier for Drake May, because in all of the Patriots playoff games thus far, the offense has not really played all that well, which I understand. They've gone up against some great defenses. In the AFC Championship game, they had to deal with the weather. So, like, I'm going to give credit to where it's due because Drake May could have easily lost the Patriots any of their playoff games. But, he played well enough for them to win, which that also needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
I think they've got to get, the run game going, give Drake May a few easy passes just to kind of get things going because I think Seattle's defense, when you look at the roster and how they're playing, I think their defense is better than, the Broncos. I'd say the Texans and, Seattle are pretty much 1A and 1B in terms of, how well that defense is and then they play the Chargers. So if the Patriots somehow win this game, I think people do have to acknowledge that this is one of the best Super Bowl like runs ever considering how good each defense the Patriots have played is.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, I gotta take a second to just put a little more respect on Drake May's name, which I know is a little bit counterintuitive because I was saying Stafford deserved the MVP ahead of him. Um, that Houston game, that Patriots Houston game, Drake May threw three touchdowns, only one pick. We were all going crazy about how great that defense was. He threw three touchdowns, one pick that game. Played better than Aaron Rodgers against that defense. And then we can go to the Denver game, and I'm just gonna say he didn't throw a touchdown that game. Obviously, we all know the blizzard happened in the second half. He didn't throw an interception that game either, though. With as good as the Denver Broncos defense is, one thing you can say about Drake May is he does protect the football. Now, I will say this, their offensive line has been playing terrible because in each of the three playoff games, he's been sacked 5 times. He's been sacked 15 times this postseason. So I will say they need to protect him. They need to protect him extremely badly. Like that has got to be the number one priority going into this game is the offensive line, need to block and protect Drake May. And Drake May needs to continue to make good decisions with the football and not put the ball in jeopardy. So I'm not saying that I believe Drake May will go out there and win the game, but I don't necessarily think that he will go out there and lose the game for them. I think it's been proven, especially this season, that Drake May has been trustworthy with the football, has been known to make good decisions, and I think that that will continue the Super Bowl. Um, but we'll see. I just think that everybody's saying that the Seattle's defense is just too overwhelming for this Patriots offense, but the Patriots handled two really, really good defenses back to back. Obviously, taking an exception with the second half snowstorm, but they have a chance. They do have a chance.
I do agree. I'm going to acknowledge that they do have a chance, but I honestly think that, this is going to be like we'll say the best team that they've played. I think if Bo Nix played in the AFC Championship game, it's an entirely different conversation. Whether the Patriots win or lose that game. The Texans offense has not looked good, the entire year. So I honestly think that, the Patriots, I don't trust their weapons on the outside in crunch time. That's my biggest thing. I think that, like they're gonna, move the ball, effectively. They're gonna put some points on the board. But I think when the going gets tough, that's when things are gonna be different. And I would say my other takeaways, keys to the game for the Patriots is that when they're on defense, they need to make Sam Darnold throw the football. In Seattle, when they played in the NFC Championship game, Sam Darnold had a great game. I think that, as of right now today, Sam Darnold has not fully escaped the playoff choker narrative, even though that he has not had many playoff games in his career. He has not. But I think that the biggest Seattle versus, like Sam Darnold versus the Patriots defense, that I think is the biggest thing in the game. Like, even more so than Drake May versus the Seattle defense. Because I think if the Patriots can get 1 to 2 stops, I think that could be the difference maker. And then the third thing I'd have to say that's very important for the Patriots, don't go for it on fourth down early. Unless you are quite literally at the 1 yard line, you need 1 yard to score, then I'd say go for it. Like it could be the first drive of the game. Otherwise, take your points. I feel like there's been times this postseason that teams have not taken their points and it ended up biting them in the butt in the end. That is my biggest thing. And I say for Seattle, kind of similar thought process to the quarterback play. Make Sam Darnold's life easy, especially to start the game. Give him some easy throws. Have, Kenneth Walker, give him some, touches early. I know there's no Zach Charbonnet, but, having Kenneth Walker, against the Rams, they had JSN in the backfield. Have a
Mhm.
couple plays like that, be creative.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. Next, play your game. Like Seattle does not blitz very much because they're able to get, pressure with their front four.
Mhm.
I think Drake May is very good against the blitz. I've seen it in my own eyes when the Patriots play the Ravens in the regular season. Because, like, here was the thing with that game. When the Ravens did not send blitz in that game, Drake May picked them apart. But when the Ravens did blitz, Drake May struggled a little bit, but he still had a good enough game across the board to help the Patriots beat the Ravens. If I'm Seattle, I'm just trusting my front four to get pressure on that quarterback because if you don't have to send blitz, that's a long day for I think back to the Bucks in Patriots, not Patriots, Bucks in Chiefs Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure the Bucks did not really blitz at all in that Super Bowl. I understand the Chiefs had some injured offensive linemen, but still, not sending blitz is the greatest strength a defense can have if you can get there with your front seven.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with the Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl. It was the same thing. So I think you're right. I think that is just a definite recipe for success for a lot of teams, especially with quarterbacks who are known to kind of tighten up when the pressure is applied. I think for the Seahawks, it's going to be a matter of fact of can, like you said, their front four get pressure on the Patriots. We've seen the Patriots offensive line struggle this postseason. Can the Seahawks generate enough pressure to kind of force errors on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots? And then secondly, going off of what you said, Sam Darnold, take care of the football. Continue to take care of the football. I do think that he's able to. I've he's won me over this season, and then the last season as well. He's really started to win me over. I just need him to continue to play consistent, make smart decisions because it's kind of like that Jordan Love thing where like he could play well the whole game, and then he just has one or two plays where it's just like, what are you doing? And I think that that's what Sam Darnold needs to avoid. Just play smart. I think Seahawks overall have a better, more talented roster as far as like the skill levels and stuff. So just get the ball in your skill makers' hands, let them make plays. I think that this will be a really interesting special teams game, to be honest with you as well. Mike Vrabel, very known for playing the field possession game. And then we obviously know Seahawks and how explosive their special teams has been this season, especially since the trade with Shaheed. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. But yeah, I'm still taking the Seahawks overall, I think.
You had gotten into my third point for Seattle, and that is, controlling, field position because I think Rashid Shaheed could be a potential Super Bowl MVP.
Mm,
Because I kind of think back, to when the 49ers and Chiefs played the second time. If the 49ers won that game, Juwan Jennings would have been the Super Bowl MVP. He
yeah,
was balling.
he
I think
was.
Rashid Shaheed, through kick returns, punt returns, he can run the ball. He's a good receiver.
Mm,
I think all of that, he could make a huge difference on the game. I
yeah.
think he can flip. All it takes special teams wise is one good punt return or one good kick return.
I mean, we saw it in the Seahawks Rams game where literally one punt return just changed the entire dynamic of the game. So,
Exactly. I think that's huge. I think, Mike Vrabel, he's probably going to be like, look, on kickoffs, on punts, punt or kick the ball out of bounds. I think if it's fielded to him, like, he's going to say, hey, stay in your lanes, don't break containment, because if if Rashid Shaheed, finds a lane, he might crib it. He
yeah,
might.
yeah.
But who is your pick for the Super Bowl MVP?
Super Bowl MVP pick. Oh man. Um, I'm not going to pick anybody specifically. I'm not actually. But what I am going to do is I'm going to throw a curveball and I'm going to go something unexpected. I think that the Super Bowl MVP will be a defensive player. This
Ooh.
I do. A little bit of Malcolm Butler kind of, effect as far as a
I don't even
rematch.
think he got the Super Bowl MVP for that interception.
He didn't, but I'm just saying, I,
I know
I
what you
think
mean, though.
it's going to be a little bit of a, Von Miller type or a Malcolm Butler type effect on the game for a defensive player. So yeah, keep your ears peeled for that.
I get you. I am going to kind of go with the more traditional pick. Most of the time it ends up going to a quarterback, and I think Sam Darnold is going to get that MVP. But I think somebody like, typically there's always two people who are in hot contention for getting the award. I think Rashid Shaheed could be that. You know what? Give him Super Bowl MVP award.
Hmm.
And really, I just kind of have one other thing to talk about is every year there's typically one person who plays really, really well that is like, oh my gosh, who is this? In Super Bowl 49, when these two teams play, Chris Matthews on Seattle, he balled out.
Hmm.
In Super Bowl 50, when the Panthers and Broncos played, the Panthers defensive end, I think his name was Coney Ely, he
Yeah.
balled out.
Hmm.
So do you think that there's going to be any people, any players on either one of these teams going to be like, who the heck is this and why are they ruining my parlay?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a defensive player. I do. I don't I'm not gonna say a name because I don't know these defenses well enough to really call out a name. I know the Seahawks have great defensive pieces all around on the D line, secondary, linebackers even. Their linebackers run around. I think who is it, number three, who just showed up on the injury report for ankle sprain.
Oh, Nick Emenwari, who
He
he's a
balled
baller.
out. He balled out. Was it last week or against Houston? I can't remember.
He was the X factor in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a defensive player will definitely make his name known this game, and hope maybe put their career in a place where they can really get a huge payout.
I'm with you. I'll pick one player from each team who I think could be that, like, oh my gosh, who is this? For the Patriots, I'm gonna kind of lean in two directions, even though that these are known players. I'm gonna say either wide receiver Matt Collins or I'm gonna say wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, which I still am hesitant to actually saying that's how you pronounce his last name. If it is, so be it. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No, I
I
get you.
just think it's one of those names where people tend to mispronounce, like Bijan Robinson. Like he kind of went back on how he said how to pronounce his name.
Yep.
So like I don't know if it's Boutte or if it's,
Booty.
Booty. I have no idea if I'm being completely honest. But for Seattle, I think either Nick Emenwari or I think it's going to be Cooper Cup. Which I understand Cooper Cup, everyone knows who Cooper Cup is,
Super Bowl
but
MVP.
yeah, I think that Cooper Cup might make a bigger impact than what you're expecting because I would imagine the Patriots are going to be like, look, find where JSN is and lock him down. That's
Hey,
why I'm naming Cooper Cup because Cooper Cup is on the end stages of his career, and if Seattle can get one more Super Bowl performance out of him, that
hey,
could be the end all difference.
Cooper Cup against the Rams conference in the conference finals. He did have like four humongous catches.
He
And he
did.
only had four catches, but all four of them were humongous. I think like the last one was that fourth down play where he extended over the for the first down, and they needed that to win the game. So yeah, Cooper Cup could be definitely a name to keep your eyes on because I will say that I think Cooper Cup still has some good years left in him.
I do too. I do too. But if the Cooper Cup answer, let's just say some people view it as a cop-out answer, if I was to try to reach deeper in my like bag of players, because I feel like Seattle at least has a lot of known players on their entire team. Um, I'm gonna go with another defensive player. I'm gonna say Witherspoon. He is, a great corner who I think can make a big, aspect in this game. Leonard Williams, he's a known defensive player.
Watch
I
out for
think he can
Jared
make.
Verse.
Say it again.
Jared Verse on the Rams. I mean, that's the same. It's kind of like the same situation.
Exactly, exactly. But I think Seattle's gonna get this win 27-17. I think the Patriots are gonna have some plays that they left on the field. They're gonna be like, dang, like we missed them. We missed them. We really, really do. But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great game. And to everyone out there, if you're going, however you're watching the Super Bowl, if you're watching it at home, if you're, going to be with, family, friends, if you're going to go out, be safe, be responsible, call somebody, if you need, a ride from wherever you are, because, that's important. The Super Bowl, nobody talks about, the dangerous it is to, just drive. So,
Mhm.
you know, be careful. Uber, please, if
Mm.
you're the type of person to partake in 21 years old or above activities. But is there anything else you want to add about the Super Bowl performance?
I don't think so. I'm interested to see Bad Bunny perform. I think that's
That
going
was
to
one
be
thing it just came to mind to talk about. Like, I know I don't know a lot of Bad Bunny songs. Like, I know him as an individual,
right.
like in terms of like, oh yeah, he's a huge, mu musician. Do you think he's gonna surprise some people with like either A, how good his show is, or B, who he brings out?
Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna be surprised. I'm in the same boat as you. I know Bad Bunny, but I don't. I'm not gonna say I really listen to his music. Um, I do like his music. What I've heard, I like. I just obviously don't understand it, so I don't really listen to it. But with that being said, I do know I've seen him perform, and he is an amazing performer. He is a really good performer. I think we're gonna get some like Bruno Mars type like energy, not necessarily Bruno
Teenager.
Mars, but like just big energy, good performer. So I'm excited to see him perform. I think a lot of people are have polarizing
Believe.
ideologies on what he represents and stuff, but I'm excited for it. ICE is supposed to be at the Super Bowl. Everybody stay safe. Um, but yeah, not I think Bad Bunny's gonna light it up.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll have to add, which I might be wrong, you might have to correct me with the names. I'm pretty sure Bad Bunny has a song with Cardi B, and I'm pretty sure the song is called "I Like It." Like I like it like that. I only really know Cardi B's verse in that song.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I from what Spanish I do know, I do understand some of what Bad Bunny is saying in that song, and I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I don't think Cardi B is going to be a surprise guest, specifically because pretty much for every Patriots game she goes to, she's up in Robert Kraft's booth. But if that song was performed, that would be kind of cool.
It would be.
But that's all I have. I just want to thank you all for listening to the Super Bowl edition of the I Am Passionate podcast. It's your host, Jaren Smith, joined by his big brother, Cam Smith. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime.